For Craig Melvin, the words on the teleprompter have always been a guide rather than a shield, and over the years he has come to understand that what truly shapes a broadcast is not merely the script in front of him, but the life accumulating quietly behind his eyes, a life marked by experience, humility, setbacks, fatherhood, partnership, and the steady passage of time that so many viewers in their 60s recognize as both teacher and companion. Early in his career, Craig approached the news with the crisp precision of someone determined to prove himself, delivering facts cleanly, keeping emotion measured, believing that professionalism meant distance. Yet as the decades unfolded and the headlines grew heavier, stories of national sorrow, community resilience, personal triumph, and collective grief, he found that the most meaningful reporting did not come from detachment, but from a deeper well of lived understanding. And it was often in the quiet after the broadcast, when the studio lights dimmed and the bustle faded, that he felt how profoundly each story had pressed against his own humanity. Lindsay Charniak, who knows the cadence of live television as intimately as he does, became not only his partner at home, but a mirror reflecting his growth, gently reminding him that authenticity on air is not a liability, but a bridge. And in their conversations over late dinners or early morning coffee, they would talk about how the industry had changed, how the pace had quickened, how outrage could eclipse nuance, how viewers longed not just for information, but for steadiness. And Craig began to see that beyond the script lay an opportunity to offer something rarer than speed: perspective. Those who have lived through multiple chapters of American history understand that time refines a person, sanding down ego, sharpening empathy. And Craig's reporting gradually took on that patina of earned wisdom, a subtle shift noticeable not in dramatic gestures, but in the way he paused before asking a difficult question, in the softness that entered his voice when speaking with someone in pain, in the courage to acknowledge uncertainty rather than mask it with bravado. He once admitted to Lindsay that he used to believe strength meant having all the answers ready before the red light blinked on. But now he felt strength was the willingness to let a moment breathe, to allow silence its rightful place. And she smiled with the recognition of someone who had reached similar conclusions in her own career, understanding that growth is not about abandoning ambition, but about aligning it with purpose. As Craig matured, so too did his awareness that the viewers who tuned in each morning carried their own reservoirs of experience. Retirements navigated, children launched into adulthood, parents laid to rest, marriages tested and renewed, and he felt a quiet responsibility to honor that depth, to speak not down to an audience, but alongside them, as a fellow traveler who had stumbled and learned and risen again. There were broadcasts where the weight of a story mirrored something personal: a health scare within the family, the memory of a loss, the bittersweet realization of time moving swiftly. And in those moments, beyond the script, Craig allowed a flicker of his own journey to inform the telling, not overshadowing the facts, but enriching them with compassion. And viewers responded not with spectacle, but with trust, sensing that the man at the desk was no longer striving to impress, but to connect. Lindsay often told him that the greatest compliment in journalism is credibility sustained over years, and for Craig, that credibility became less about exclusives or ratings and more about consistency of character, about showing up with integrity even when the world felt fractured, about admitting when a story demanded humility rather than certainty. In private, he reflected on how aging, once something he regarded with mild apprehension, had become an unexpected ally, granting him patience he did not possess at 35, tempering his reactions, teaching him that immediacy need not cancel reflection. And for viewers in their 60s who have navigated similar reckonings, his evolution offered a quiet affirmation that growth does not stall with age, but deepens, reshaping not only careers, but identities. Beyond the script, beyond the polished segments and rehearsed transitions, Craig's reporting became an extension of the life he and Lindsay were building, rooted in shared values, in mutual respect for the craft, in the understanding that headlines may fade, but character endures. And there were evenings when they would sit together after a long day, discussing not ratings or rival networks, but the human beings at the center of the stories, asking themselves whether they had done justice to those voices, whether they had illuminated rather than inflamed. And in those reflective conversations lay the true transformation, a shift from performance to stewardship. Craig no longer measures success solely by applause or trending clips, but by the quieter metrics that resonate with those who have seen enough of life to crave substance over spectacle. The handwritten note from a viewer who felt heard, the thoughtful exchange that replaced confrontation with clarity, the steady knowledge that personal growth has made him not only a better journalist, but a more grounded husband and father. In this season of his life, he understands that the script will always be there, scrolling faithfully, but it is the unseen narrative, the lessons etched by time, the empathy born of shared struggle, the partnership with Lindsay that steadies him when stories threaten to overwhelm, that ultimately shapes the way he reports. And for those watching who likewise discovered that their later years are not a winding down, but a ripening, Craig's journey stands as a gentle reminder that beyond every professional role lies the ongoing work of becoming, that growth is neither loud nor linear, but persistent, and that the most enduring voices in any field are those willing to let life itself revise the script.